My boyfriend spent 3 years pressuring me to keep my hair short, and when I finally grew it out, his double life was exposed. When I met my boyfriend, Arlo, I had hair down to the middle of my back. It was thick and healthy, and I had been growing it out since high school. I loved my long hair. I spent time caring for it and styling it, and it made me feel confident. Arlo said he loved it too when we first started dating. He said it was one of the first things he noticed about me. He said I looked like a painting with all that hair. We dated for about 6 months before he made his first comment about cutting it. He said short hair might suit my face better. He said he saw a picture of a celebrity with a pixie cut and thought I would look amazing with that style. I said I wasn't interested in cutting my hair short. He dropped it, but brought it up again a month later. He said long hair was a lot of maintenance and short hair would be easier for me. I said I didn't mind the maintenance. He brought it up again at dinner a few weeks after that. He said he thought I was hiding behind my hair. He said I would look more sophisticated with a shorter cut. He said women with short hair seemed more confident and put together. He kept making these comments every few weeks until I started to wonder if maybe he was right. Maybe I was hiding behind my hair. Maybe I would look better with something shorter. Maybe I should try something new. I cut my hair to my shoulders. Arlo said it looked nice, but suggested I go even shorter next time. A few months later, I went to my chin. Arlo said it was good, but I could go shorter still. By the end of our first year together, my hair was cut into a pixie that barely covered my ears. Arlo said he loved it. He said I looked incredible. He said this was the real me, and he was so glad I finally found a style that suited me. I kept my hair short for the next 3 years. Every time it started to grow past my ears, Arlo would mention that I was due for a trim. Every time I thought about letting it grow out, he would remind me how much better I looked with short hair. He said long hair washed me out. He said it made me look younger in a bad way. He said the pixie cut made me look like a professional woman who had her life together. I believed him because he was my boyfriend, and I thought he wanted what was best for me. Then last spring, my hairstylist moved away and I had to find a new one. The new stylist was booked for 6 weeks, so I had to wait. My hair started growing out past my ears, then to my chin, then to my shoulders. Arlo kept asking when I was going to get it cut. I kept saying I had an appointment coming up. But the truth was I started to like how I looked with longer hair again. I felt like myself for the first time in years. I canceled the haircut appointment and decided to keep growing it out. I didn't tell Arlo, I just let it happen. He noticed, of course. He made comments about how I was looking shaggy and needed a trim. He said I was letting myself go. He said he missed the polished version of me. I told him I wanted to try something different. He got quiet and said he really preferred me with short hair. I asked why it mattered so much to him. He said he just had a preference and I should respect that. I said I had a preference too, and my preference was my own hair. He got angry and said I was being difficult. Things were tense for the next few months, but I kept growing my hair. By fall, it was past my shoulders again and I felt beautiful. I styled it nicely for his company holiday party in December. It was the first work event of his I had attended in over 2 years. He usually said they were boring and not worth my time. But this year I insisted because I wanted to meet his coworkers he always talked about. When we arrived, Arlo seemed nervous. He kept his hand on my back like he was steering me through the room. He introduced me quickly to a few people and then tried to move us to a corner. But a woman from his department came over and looked at me with confusion. She said she didn't think she had met me before. I said I was Arlo's girlfriend. She looked even more confused. She said she thought Arlo's girlfriend had short, dark hair. I said I used to have short hair, but I grew it out. She said no, she meant she thought his girlfriend was a different person entirely. She described a woman who was shorter than me with a pixie cut and dark hair who had come to events before. She said that woman introduced herself as Arlo's girlfriend at the summer picnic just 6 months ago. I looked at Arlo. His face was completely pale. I grab his arm and pull him toward the hallway, away from the music and the chatter and all those people watching us. My heart pounds so hard I can barely hear my own voice when I speak. Arlo keeps saying there's been some kind of mix-up, that his coworker got confused, but his face has gone completely white and his hands won't stop shaking. I can feel his arm trembling under my grip as we push through the door into the empty corridor. The sounds from the party get muffled behind us, and suddenly it's just the two of us under those harsh fluorescent lights. I turn to face him and demand to know who this woman is, the one with short dark hair who's been coming to his work events as his girlfriend. Arlo stammers and tugs at his collar like he can't get enough air. He says she's just a friend from his department, someone who might have gotten the wrong idea about their relationship. His eyes keep darting around, looking at the walls, the floor, anywhere but at me. I ask him what her name is, and he hesitates before saying it's someone named Jasmine. He insists she must have misrepresented things to people at work because they're not together. They've never been together. But his voice sounds wrong and his whole body has gone stiff. I tell him we're leaving right now and he nods quickly. Too quickly, like he's relieved to escape. We walk back through the party to get our coats and I can feel people staring at us. Arlo keeps his hand on my back, but it feels different now, like he's trying to steer me instead of support me. The drive home is completely silent except for my questions that he keeps avoiding. I ask when he last saw Jasmine and he says he doesn't remember exactly. I ask how long they've known each other and he says a few years maybe. I ask why she would tell people she's his girlfriend and he says he'll explain everything when we get home. that it's complicated and he needs time to think about how to say it. His voice sounds hollow, like he's reading from a script he hasn't memorized yet. Every answer feels rehearsed and empty. We pull into our apartment building and ride the elevator up in silence. My hands are shaking now too, and I can't tell if I'm angry or scared or both. Inside our apartment, Arlo finally stops deflecting and admits there is another woman, that her name is Jasmine, and yes, she works in his department. But he insists it's not what I think, that it's complicated. He says they went on a few dates before he met me, and she got the wrong idea about where things were going. He claims he tried to let her down easy, but she wouldn't accept it. I sit down on the couch because my legs feel weak, and I ask him why Jasmine would introduce herself as his girlfriend at a work event 6 months ago, if they only went on a few dates years ago. Arlo sits down across from me and puts his head in his hands. He says Jasmine is unstable, that she's been kind of stalking him at work. He says he didn't tell me because he didn't want to worry me with his crazy coworker situation. He says he's been trying to handle it professionally through work channels, but she keeps showing up at company events uninvited. Something about his explanation feels completely wrong. The way he's sitting, the way he won't look at me, the way his story keeps changing with every question. I pull out my phone and open Instagram, typing in Jasmine's name. Arlo's head snaps up and he tells me to stop, that I'm invading someone's privacy. But I ignore him and keep searching, adding his company name to narrow the results. He stands up and tries to take my phone, but I push past him and walk into our bedroom, locking the door behind me. I can hear him outside saying my name, but I'm scrolling through search results until I find her. Jasmine Westbrook. Her profile picture shows a woman with short dark hair styled in a pixie cut. My stomach drops as I click on her page and start scrolling. There are photos of her and Arlo at restaurants I recognize. Photos of them at parks on sunny days. Photos of them at what look like company events with other people I saw tonight. The photos go back 2 years according to the dates. 2 entire years of pictures. In every single photo, Jasmine has short dark hair cut almost exactly like mine used to be. The same pixie style Arlo spent 3 years convincing me to keep. I unlock the bedroom door and walk back to the living room where Arlo is pacing. I hold up my phone and show him the photos. I watch his face as his whole story falls apart in real time. He tries to say something, but no words come out. He sits down on the edge of our bed and puts his head in his hands again. The silence stretches out for what feels like forever. Finally, he admits he's been seeing both of us. He says it just happened, that he never meant for it to go on this long. He swears he loves me more, that I'm the one he really wants to be with. I stand there looking at him, and I don't recognize the person sitting in front of me. I grab my purse and my keys and tell him I'm leaving. He asks where I'm going, and I say, I don't know, but I can't be here right now. I drive to my friend Rosemary's apartment and text her from the parking lot. She opens her door in pajamas and takes one look at my face before pulling me inside. She makes tea while I sit on her couch and try to explain what happened. The words come out in broken pieces between crying. Rosemary listens and doesn't interrupt, just hands me tissues and lets me talk until I run out of things to say. She sets up her guest room for me and tells me I can stay as long as I need. I lie awake most of the night staring at the ceiling and trying to understand how my entire relationship could be a lie. The next morning, I call in sick to work. I can't imagine sitting at my desk and pretending everything is normal. Rosemary makes coffee and sits with me at her kitchen table while I start making a list on my phone. I write down everything that doesn't make sense about the past 3 years. All the times Arlo pressured me about my hair. All the work events he said weren't worth my time. All the weekends he claimed to be working late or traveling for business. Every excuse he made about why I couldn't come to certain places or meet certain people. The list gets longer and longer as I remember more details. Rosemary sits beside me on her couch and opens her laptop. She pulls up Jasmine's Instagram again and starts clicking through posts more slowly. I watch over her shoulder as she scrolls back through months of photos. She stops on a picture from last June showing Jasmine and Arlo at what looks like a street festival. I remember that weekend clearly because Arlo said he had to attend a work conference in Chicago. He sent me a few texts about boring presentations and hotel food. But in this photo, he's standing next to Jasmine with his arm around her waist, both of them holding ice cream cones and smiling at the camera. The location tag says it's a festival downtown in our city. Rosemary clicks to the next photo. This one is from August at a beach. Arlo told me he was at another conference that weekend, this time in Boston. But the photo shows him and Jasmine building a sandcastle together at a beach I recognize as being just 2 hours from where we live. Rosemary keeps scrolling and we find more. A hiking photo from September when he said he was visiting his sick aunt. A restaurant dinner from October when he claimed to be working late on a big project. Every single photo matches up with a weekend or evening when he gave me an excuse about why he couldn't see me. I feel sick looking at the timeline. He didn't just lie occasionally. He planned everything carefully to keep us apart. I pull out my phone and open my text messages with Caitlin from last night. I type out a message asking if we can meet for coffee because I need to talk about what happened at the party. My finger hovers over the send button for a minute before I press it. Caitlin responds almost right away saying she's been worried about me and asking if I can meet this afternoon at a coffee shop near Arlo's office. I agree and she sends me the address. Rosemary offers to come with me, but I say I need to do this alone. She makes me promise to text her if I need anything. I arrive at the coffee shop 20 minutes early and order tea I don't drink. Caitlin walks in exactly on time and spots me right away. She gives me a hug before sitting down across from me. She looks uncomfortable and keeps fidgeting with her coffee cup. She starts talking before I can even ask my first question. She says everyone at work has been talking about what happened at the party. She says she feels terrible because she should have said something sooner. Then she tells me that for the past 2 years, everyone in their department thought Jasmine was Arlo's girlfriend. He brought her to every single company event. The summer picnic, the holiday parties, the team dinners, all of it. Caitlin says whenever someone asked about me, Arlo always had an excuse ready. He said I was busy with work projects or that I didn't enjoy corporate events or that I had other commitments. He made it sound completely normal that I never came to anything. Nobody questioned it because lots of people don't bring their partners to work stuff. But Jasmine came to everything and acted like she belonged there. She knew everyone's names and asked about their families and fit right into the group. Caitlin keeps talking and I just sit there taking it in. She says she's been thinking back over the past 2 years and remembering things that seem weird now. Like how Arlo always wanted to know the seating arrangements before events. He would ask who was sitting where and sometimes request to be moved to different tables. Caitlin thought he was just particular about who he networked with. But now she realizes he was managing who Jasmine and I might run into if we both showed up. She also mentions that Arlo's desk at work has photos displayed on it. Photos of him and Jasmine at various places. Caitlin says she's walked past his desk hundreds of times and never once saw a photo of me. She didn't think anything of it before because not everyone displays photos at work. But combined with everything else, it's another piece of the pattern. I go back to Rosemary's apartment after meeting Caitlin and spend the rest of the afternoon on my laptop. I create a fake social media account using a random name and a stock photo I find online. Then I use it to look at Jasmine's profile more carefully. Her account is public, so I can see everything without her knowing it's me looking. What I find makes me feel worse. She posts about their relationship openly. There are a couple photos with captions about date nights and weekend adventures. She tags him in posts and uses hashtags like couple goals and relationship. She shares photos of gifts he gave her and writes about how lucky she is. Meanwhile, Arlo always asked me to keep our relationship more private online. He said he didn't like mixing his personal and professional lives on social media. He said it was more mature to keep things between us instead of broadcasting everything. I believed him because it seemed reasonable. But now I see he just didn't want me posting anything that Jasmine might see. I keep scrolling through Jasmine's posts and find ones that talk about her hair. There's a post from about 3 years ago showing her with long brown hair past her shoulders. The caption says she's thinking about cutting it short. Then a few weeks later, there's a photo of her with a pixie cut almost identical to the one I used to have. The caption talks about how supportive Arlo has been about her new look. She writes that he loves her professional style and thinks short hair makes her look confident. There are comments from her friends saying the cut looks great and asking if her boyfriend helped her decide. She responds saying yes, that he encouraged her to try something bold. I read those words and feel my stomach turn. They're almost exactly the same things Arlo said to me. The same compliments about looking professional and confident. The same pressure disguised as support. He used the exact same script on both of us. Rosemary comes into the guest room and finds me staring at my laptop screen. She sits down on the bed next to me and asks what I found. I show her Jasmine's posts about the haircut and the comments about Arlo being supportive. Rosemary reads them and shakes her head. She's quiet for a minute before she says I should reach out to Jasmine directly. She says Jasmine deserves to know the truth about what Arlo has been doing. I tell her I'm scared to contact Jasmine because I don't know how she'll react. What if she doesn't believe me? What if she thinks I'm lying or trying to cause problems? Rosemary says those are valid fears. But Jasmine has a right to know she's been lied to just like I have. She says if someone was doing this to her, she would want to know even if it hurt. I spend the next 2 days trying to figure out what to say to Jasmine. I draft messages and delete them. I type out explanations and erase them. I practice what I want to say out loud to Rosemary, and it never sounds right. Every version feels either too aggressive or too apologetic. I don't want to attack Jasmine because she's a victim in this too. But I also don't want to sound like I'm making excuses for not figuring this out sooner. On the 3rd day, I finally write something simple. I introduce myself as Arlo's girlfriend and say I need to talk to her about something important. I ask if we can meet in person because this isn't a conversation I want to have over text. I read it 5 more times before hitting send. Jasmine responds in less than an hour. Her message is short and confused. She says she doesn't understand who I am because she's Arlo's girlfriend. She asks if maybe I'm confused or if this is some kind of joke. I read her response and realize she has no idea. Arlo kept us so separate that she genuinely doesn't know I exist. I write back saying I'm not confused and this isn't a joke. I tell her I've been dating Arlo for over 3 years and I have proof. I suggest we meet at a coffee shop to talk face to face. She agrees but says she's bringing evidence too because she knows she's his girlfriend and she can prove it. We pick a coffee shop that's neutral territory for both of us. I spend the morning printing out screenshots of text messages between me and Arlo. I print photos of us together from the past 3 years. I print a copy of our lease agreement showing both our names on the apartment. My hands shake as I put everything in a folder. Rosemary asks again if she should come with me and I say no. This is something I need to do alone. I arrive at the coffee shop 15 minutes early and pick a table in the back corner. I order coffee and wait. My heart pounds in my chest as I watch the door. Then Jasmine walks in, and I recognize her immediately from all the photos I've seen. She's shorter than me with dark hair cut in a pixie style. She looks around the coffee shop until she spots me. She walks over slowly carrying her own folder of papers. We sit down across from each other and neither of us speaks for a long moment. Then we both start pulling out our evidence at the same time. I spread out my printed photos and texts on the table. She does the same with hers. We stare at the papers covering the table between us. There are photos of Jasmine and Arlo at a restaurant I recognize. I pull out a photo of me and Arlo at that same restaurant on a different night. The tables and decorations are identical. She has a picture of them at a park. I have one of us at the same park. She has texts where he calls her beautiful and says he loves her. I have almost identical texts with slightly different wording. She has a birthday card he gave her. I have one too from my birthday last month. We sit in stunned silence looking at the evidence of our duplicate relationships laid out in front of us. Jasmine picks up one of my photos showing me and Arlo at a waterfront restaurant. She sets it next to her own photo from the same place. The angle of the shot is almost identical. She traces her finger along the railing visible in both pictures. She asks when I was there. I check the date stamp on my phone. August 15th of last year. She pulls up her photo and shows me the date. August 22nd. 1 week apart. We both went to the same restaurant within 7 days, and neither of us knew the other existed. She scrolls through more of her photos and stops on one from a hiking trail. I have the same trail in my camera roll from a different weekend. She shows me a picture from a coffee shop downtown. I recognize the blue tile wall in the background because I have a selfie in front of it. We keep finding these duplicate locations like we were living parallel lives in the same city. Jasmine sets her phone down and looks at me. She asks if I remember Arlo ever mentioning his preference for short hair before we started dating. I think back to our early conversations. He complimented my long hair constantly those first few months. He never said anything about preferring it short until half a year into our relationship. Jasmine nods slowly. She says Arlo told her on their second date that he found short hair attractive on women. She says he mentioned a former girlfriend who had a pixie cut and how much he loved that style. She says she had hair past her shoulders when they met. Within 3 months of dating him, she cut it to chin length. 6 months later, she went shorter. By their first anniversary, she had the pixie cut she has now. She thought it was her own decision. She thought she was trying something new and bold. Now she realizes he used the same manipulation tactics on both of us. He made us both feel like cutting our hair was our choice while he slowly pushed us toward the exact same look. I feel sick thinking about how calculated it all was. Jasmine wipes her eyes with the back of her hand. She asks how long Arlo and I have been together. I tell her 3 years and 2 months. She goes very still. She says she and Arlo have been dating for 3.5 years. I do the math in my head. That means he started seeing her 6 months before he met me. He was already in a relationship when he approached me at that bookstore and told me I looked like a painting. Jasmine says she thought she was his only girlfriend this whole time. She says they talked about moving in together next year. She says she was looking at engagement rings online last month thinking he might propose soon. She trusted him completely. She built her entire future around him. I tell her I moved into his apartment 2 years ago. Her face goes white. She says he told her he lived with a male roommate named Jomar. She says that's why she could never stay over. He claimed Jomar was uncomfortable with overnight guests. I realize I'm Jomar in this scenario. Arlo created a fake roommate to explain why Jasmine couldn't be at the apartment on weekends. Jasmine starts piecing together his system out loud. She says he always claimed to work late on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Those must have been nights he spent with me. I realize he told me he had early morning client meetings on Wednesdays and Fridays. Those were probably mornings he went to work from Jasmine's place. He used his job as the excuse for everything. He told both of us he traveled for work conferences when he was probably just staying with the other one. He kept us on completely opposite schedules so we would never overlap. Jasmine pulls out her phone and opens Arlo's social media profiles. She scrolls through his photos. Most of them are solo shots or pictures with his male friends. There are a few with Jasmine, but her face is angled away or partially cropped out. I look through my own photos of Arlo. Same pattern. Lots of him alone or with guys from work. A handful with me, but always carefully framed. He never posted couple photos that clearly showed our faces together. He managed his online presence to hide both relationships. Jasmine says his friend group from work never mixed with his college friends. He kept those social circles completely separate. She met his work friends, but never anyone from his past. I met his college buddies, but never his coworkers until last night. He built walls between every part of his life so nothing would connect. Jasmine's hands start shaking. She says she moved to this city 2 years ago specifically to be closer to Arlo. She had a job offer in another state that paid $15,000 more per year. Better position, better company, better career trajectory. But Arlo said he couldn't do long distance. He said their relationship was too important to him. He said he needed her nearby. So she turned down the opportunity and took a lower-paying job here instead. She gave up significant career advancement because he convinced her he couldn't live without her close by. Meanwhile, he was living with me the entire time. I feel my chest tighten as I remember my own sacrifice. Last year, my company offered me a promotion to senior manager. It came with better pay and more responsibility, but it required attending evening networking events twice a month. When I told Arlo about the opportunity, he got quiet. He said those evening events would cut into our time together. He said our relationship needed consistent quality time to stay strong. He said he worried the promotion would create distance between us. I turned down the promotion because I thought our relationship mattered more than my career. Now I understand he needed me home those evenings because he was with Jasmine. He used our relationship as leverage to control my schedule and keep me available when it suited his double life. Jasmine and I sit in silence for a moment, processing how much we both gave up for him. She pulls up photos on her phone again. She starts looking at pictures taken inside Arlo's apartment. I do the same with mine. We compare them side by side. In Jasmine's photos, the camera angles are tight. Mostly close-ups of her and Arlo with blank walls in the background. No wide shots showing the full room. In my photos, the same pattern appears. Careful framing that avoids showing identifying details. I have hardly any pictures that capture the whole living room or bedroom. Jasmine says she always thought it was weird that Arlo didn't like taking photos at his place. He claimed the lighting was bad or the apartment was messy. Now she realizes he was hiding evidence. If either of us had clear photos of his space, we might have eventually compared notes and noticed we were both in the same apartment. I look at the few wide-angle shots I do have. I notice now that certain items are missing from different photos. A blue throw blanket appears in some pictures, but not others. A specific coffee mug sits on the counter in one shot, but is gone in the next. He must have hidden my belongings when Jasmine visited and hidden her things when I was there. Jasmine mentions she never stayed over on weekends. Arlo told her he needed weekends to decompress and have alone time. He said it was important for his mental health to have space. I realized I was always at the apartment on weekends. That was our time together. He had me on weekends and her on weeknights. A perfect split schedule that kept us from ever crossing paths. Jasmine's voice cracks as she talks. She says Arlo's friend Julian from work knows about both of us. She saw Julian at a company picnic last summer. When Arlo introduced them, Julian gave Arlo a strange look. Later, she saw Julian pull Arlo aside and they had an intense conversation. She asked Arlo about it afterward, and he said Julian was just being weird about work drama. Now she understands Julian was probably warning Arlo that his double life was risky. I remember meeting Julian once when he stopped by the apartment. He seemed uncomfortable the whole time. He kept looking between me and Arlo like he wanted to say something but didn't. He left quickly, and Arlo seemed irritated after he was gone. Julian has been helping Arlo maintain this deception, running interference at work events, making excuses when needed, covering for him when the schedules got complicated. He knew what Arlo was doing and he went along with it. Jasmine and I look at each other across the table, covered in evidence of our duplicate lives. Something strange is happening between us. We should hate each other. We're technically rivals for the same man's attention, but instead I feel this odd connection forming. We're both victims of the same manipulation. We both trusted someone who systematically lied to us for years. We both changed ourselves to fit his preferences. We both gave up opportunities because he convinced us our relationship with him mattered most. Neither of us saw the signs because he was so careful and deliberate in his deception. Jasmine asks what we should do now. I say we need to confront him together. She nods and suggests we go to his apartment when he's not expecting either of us. I still have my key. We can show up at a time when he told both of us he would be busy. Force him to face both of us at once and explain himself with nowhere to hide. Jasmine checks her phone. She says Arlo told her he has to work late this Wednesday. I check my messages. He told me he has a client dinner Wednesday evening. She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. Wednesday it is. 2 days from now, we'll both show up at his door and watch his carefully constructed lies fall apart. Wednesday comes and we stand outside Arlo's apartment door at 7 in the evening. Jasmine holds her key in one hand and I hold mine in the other. Neither of us has told him we're coming. He thinks I'm at a work dinner and he told Jasmine he had to stay late at the office. We look at each other for a long moment before I nod and she unlocks the door. The apartment is quiet when we walk in. Lights are on in the living room and kitchen. Arlo's jacket hangs on the hook by the door. We hear water running in the bathroom and then it stops. Footsteps move down the hallway. Arlo walks into the living room wearing sweatpants and a t-shirt with wet hair from the shower. He freezes when he sees both of us standing there. His face goes completely white. His mouth opens but no sound comes out. Jasmine crosses her arms and I do the same. He looks between us like he's trying to find words that will fix this, but there aren't any. He starts to say something about this being a misunderstanding, but I cut him off. I tell him we know everything. Jasmine says we've compared notes and timelines and photos. We know about the separate schedules and the hidden belongings and the lies about work events. Arlo sits down hard on the couch like his legs won't hold him anymore. He puts his head in his hands. Jasmine walks closer and starts listing things. She talks about the summer picnic where she met his coworkers as his girlfriend. The weekend trips he took with me while telling her he was visiting family. The way he kept her away from his apartment on weekends. I add my own list. The company parties he said weren't worth my time. The promotion I turned down because he said it would interfere with our relationship. The constant pressure about my hair and appearance. Arlo looks up with tears in his eyes. He tries to interrupt, but Jasmine holds up her hand. We're not done talking, she says. I mention how he isolated both of us from his work life and friend groups. How he made sure we never overlapped in any way. How he controlled what we wore and how we styled our hair so we would fit some image he had in his head. Jasmine talks about the lie he told her about me being a stalker. The way he made her think she was crazy for questioning things that didn't add up. Arlo's shoulders start shaking and he's crying now. He says he never meant for this to happen. He says it started as casual dating with both of us and then got serious with both of us and he didn't know how to choose. He says he loved parts of both relationships and convinced himself he could keep them separate forever. His voice breaks when he talks. He says he knows it was wrong, but by the time he realized how deep he was in the deception, it felt impossible to stop. I ask him directly why the hair mattered so much, why he spent 3 years pressuring me to keep it short, why he did the same thing to Jasmine. Arlo wipes his face with his hands. He says he has a specific type he's attracted to. Short hair, professional appearance, a certain look. He thought we both looked more sophisticated with pixie cuts. But really he wanted us to look similar, so his fantasy could stay consistent. He wanted to be able to picture the same type of woman whether he was with me or with Jasmine. Jasmine's voice is cold when she asks if there are other women. Arlo shakes his head quickly and says it's just been us two. But he hesitates before answering, and that pause tells us everything. We look at each other, and I can see the same doubt in her eyes that I feel. We might never know the full truth. There could be others we don't know about. There could be more lies we haven't uncovered yet. I tell Arlo we're both done with him. Jasmine nods and says the same thing. Arlo stands up fast and reaches toward us. He says he'll do anything to fix this. He'll go to therapy. He knows he has problems. He can change if we give him another chance. He says he'll choose one of us if that's what it takes. His desperation makes my stomach turn. The fact that he's still trying to negotiate and bargain just proves we're making the right choice. I walk to the bedroom and start grabbing my things. Clothes from the closet, toiletries from the bathroom, books from the nightstand. Jasmine stays in the living room and I can hear Arlo's voice rising and falling as he tries to talk to her. I stuff everything into the bags I brought. My hands shake as I pack, but I keep moving. Every item I take feels like reclaiming a piece of myself. I find photos of us together and leave them on the dresser. I don't want any reminders. When I come back to the living room with my bags, Jasmine is standing by the door. Arlo is still on the couch with his face in his hands. I walk to the kitchen counter and set down my apartment key. The metal makes a small sound when it hits the granite. Something about that tiny noise feels final. I feel relief mixed with this heavy sadness. 3 years of my life were built on lies, but at least now I know the truth. Jasmine and I walk out together without saying anything else to Arlo. In the hallway, she pulls out her phone. We exchange numbers and she says we should stay in touch. We're not friends exactly, but we understand each other in a way nobody else can. We both gave up parts of ourselves for someone who was using us. We both trusted someone who was systematically lying every single day. She gives me a quick hug before we go to our separate cars. I drive to Rosemary's apartment because I can't go back to the place I shared with Arlo. Not tonight. Maybe not ever. Rosemary opens the door and takes one look at my face and pulls me inside. She doesn't ask questions. She just makes tea and sits with me while I cry. Over the next few days, I stay on her couch and try to figure out what comes next. Arlo keeps texting. Long messages about how sorry he is and how he wants to explain. Voice messages where he sounds like he's been crying. I read the first few and then I stop. My sister Gabriella comes over one evening and looks at my phone. She says I need to block his number. She says every time I read his messages or listen to his voice, I'm giving him power over me. She's right, so I block him. The silence after that feels strange, but also freeing. Gabriella offers to help me look for a new apartment. She says I can't stay with Rosemary forever, even though Rosemary keeps saying I can stay as long as I need. We spend the weekend looking at listings online and visiting places. Gabriella makes jokes about Arlo's weird hair thing to try to make me laugh. She says maybe I should date a bald guy next time, just to be safe. I do laugh, even though it still hurts. We look at studios and one-bedrooms across town, places that Arlo has never been to and will never know about. I need space that's completely mine. Somewhere he can't picture me or show up unexpectedly. The apartments are more expensive than splitting rent with him was, but I don't care. I find a small studio in a building with good security. It has big windows and the landlord seems nice. I sign the lease 2 weeks after the confrontation at Arlo's place. The apartment is empty when I get the keys, but it feels like possibility instead of loneliness. I stand in the middle of the bare floor and look around at my new space. Nobody has controlled me here. Nobody has lied to me here. This is where I start over. A few days after moving into my new place, my phone buzzes with a text from Jasmine. She says she reported everything to HR at Arlo's company because he used work events to carry out his lies. She says they're looking into whether he broke any rules about honesty and relationships. I stare at the message for a long time before responding that I think she did the right thing. The idea of him facing real consequences at work makes me feel something between satisfaction and exhaustion. I don't have energy left to be angry, but I'm glad someone is holding him accountable. Jasmine texts back that the HR person seemed shocked when she explained the timeline and showed photos of both of us at different company events. She says they asked a lot of questions about how long it had been going on and whether any coworkers knew. I wonder if Julian will get in trouble for helping cover everything up. My phone rings 2 days later and it's Caitlin from Arlo's department. She says she wanted to check on me and share what's happening at the office. People are disgusted by what Arlo did according to her. She says Julian is dealing with fallout too, because several coworkers realized he must have known about both relationships. The gossip is intense, but most people feel bad for Jasmine and me. Caitlin says she feels guilty for not noticing something was wrong earlier. I tell her there was no way she could have known because Arlo was careful about keeping us separate. She mentions that some people are avoiding Arlo in the break room and at meetings. His reputation is damaged in ways that will probably follow him for years. I thank her for calling and for being kind about the whole situation. After we hang up, I feel strange knowing that strangers at his office are talking about my relationship and feeling sorry for me. I decide I need professional help processing everything, so I search for therapists who work with manipulation cases. I find someone named River, who specializes in emotional abuse and control. Her office is in a quiet building downtown with plants in the waiting room. She has kind eyes and doesn't push me to talk before I'm ready. In our first session, I tell her about the hair and the lies and how I stopped recognizing myself. River listens without interrupting, and then says what Arlo did with my hair was part of a bigger pattern. She explains that he was eroding my sense of self bit by bit. He made me doubt my own judgment about something as basic as my appearance. River says this kind of manipulation works because it happens slowly over months and years, until you can't remember what you wanted before someone else started telling you what to want. Over the next few weeks in therapy, I work through how I gradually lost trust in myself. River asks me to think about other decisions where Arlo influenced my choices. I realize he had opinions about my clothes and my friends and how I spent my free time. He always framed his preferences as helpful suggestions or concerns about what was best for me. River explains that abusers don't usually start with big controlling moves. They start small with things that seem reasonable, like suggesting a haircut or commenting on an outfit. Then they build on those small victories until they've reshaped major parts of your life. She says the insidious part is that you think you're making your own choices because the pressure is subtle and constant rather than forceful. By the time you realize what's happened, you barely remember who you were before. I decide to do something symbolic and book an appointment at a salon I've never been to before. When I sit in the chair, I tell the stylist I need help figuring out what I actually want my hair to look like. I explain that for years someone else controlled how I wore it, and now I don't trust my own taste. The stylist is patient and shows me different options with layers and colors. We talk through what feels right to me without anyone else's input. I decide to keep growing my hair out, but add long layers that frame my face. We choose a rich brown color with subtle highlights that catch the light. When she finishes, I look in the mirror and feel something shift inside me. This hair is mine. I chose it. Nobody pressured me or made me doubt myself. The woman looking back at me feels more real than she has in years. Jasmine texts asking if I want to meet for coffee again. We pick a place halfway between our apartments, and when she walks in, I notice her hair is growing out too. It's past her chin now, and she looks different from the photos I saw on her social media. We order drinks and sit by the window. She touches her hair and smiles sadly. She says she realized she associated short hair with being controlled, even though the haircut itself wasn't the problem. The manipulation was the problem. I tell her I understand completely because I went through the same thought process. We laugh, but it's not really funny. It's more like we're acknowledging how messed up the whole situation was. Jasmine says her new boyfriend loves her hair at any length and never comments on it unless she asks his opinion. She seems lighter somehow, like she's rediscovering parts of herself she forgot existed. I get a text from Caitlin with an update about Arlo's work situation. The company is making him transfer to a different department so he won't have to interact with Jasmine. His reputation is still damaged, and several coworkers have distanced themselves from him. People who used to eat lunch with him now sit at different tables. Julian is dealing with social consequences too because everyone knows he helped hide the truth. Caitlin says the workplace gossip has mostly died down, but people still bring it up sometimes. She mentions that Jasmine seems to be doing better and has stopped looking over her shoulder in the hallways. I'm glad the company took action even though I know it doesn't fix what happened. At least Jasmine doesn't have to see him every day and pretend everything is normal. Rosemary comes over to help me move furniture and set up my new apartment. We spend hours arranging the couch and hanging pictures and organizing the kitchen. She brings pizza for dinner and we eat sitting on the floor because I don't have a dining table yet. Rosemary looks at me and says she's proud of how I'm handling everything. She says I seem more like myself than I have in years. I ask her what she means, and she explains that during my relationship with Arlo, I was always second-guessing myself and asking for other people's opinions about basic choices. She says now I make decisions without needing validation from everyone around me. I didn't realize how much I had changed until she pointed it out. We stay up late talking and laughing, and I feel grateful to have a friend who stuck by me through all of this. My email pings with a long message from Arlo. He apologizes for everything and says he started therapy to work on his issues. He writes that he understands if I never forgive him, but wants me to know he's trying to become a better person. He claims he's been diagnosed with some kind of attachment disorder, and his therapist is helping him understand why he did what he did. The email goes on for paragraphs about his childhood and his fears and his regrets. I read it once all the way through and then I delete it without responding. I don't owe him my forgiveness or my attention. His healing journey is not my responsibility. I close my laptop and go make tea and don't think about him for the rest of the night. I start reaching out to friends I lost touch with during my relationship with Arlo. I text people I used to see regularly and suggest meeting up for coffee or dinner. Most of them respond right away saying they'd love to reconnect. Over the next few weeks, I have several conversations where friends admit they thought something was off about Arlo, but didn't want to interfere in my relationship. One friend says he seemed controlling about small things like where we sat at restaurants or what I ordered. Another friend mentions that I stopped suggesting plans and always checked with Arlo first before committing to anything. Hearing their observations hurts because it means other people saw what I couldn't see, but it also validates my experience. I wasn't imagining the control. It was real enough that people on the outside noticed it too. Gabriella shows up at my apartment on Saturday morning with coffee and a determined look on her face. She announces we're going shopping, and I'm not allowed to say no. I start to make excuses about not having money to spend on new clothes, but she waves me off and says it's her treat and I need to stop arguing. We drive to the mall and walk into stores I usually avoid because they seem too trendy or colorful. Gabriella pulls dresses off racks and holds them up against me, ignoring my protests that they're not my style. She says that's exactly the point, because my style has been dictated by Arlo for 3 years, and now I get to figure out what I actually like. We try on clothes for over an hour, and I keep gravitating toward the neutral professional pieces in blacks and grays. Gabriella physically steers me away from those sections and brings me a bright blue dress with a pattern of small flowers. I hold it up and immediately think it's too much. Too attention-grabbing. Too young for me. Then I realize those are all things Arlo would have said. I try the dress on and stare at myself in the fitting room mirror. The color makes my skin look warm and healthy. The cut fits my body in a way that feels comfortable and confident. I look like someone who enjoys getting dressed in the morning instead of someone performing a professional costume. Gabriella sees my face when I come out of the fitting room and doesn't even ask if I'm getting it. She just takes it to the register and pays before I can talk myself out of it. My phone buzzes with a text from Jasmine a few days later. She says she has news and wants me to know she started seeing someone new. She met him at a friend's party and they've been on 3 dates so far. She writes that he complimented her growing out hair once and then never mentioned it again, unless she specifically asked his opinion. She says it's refreshing to be with someone who doesn't have an agenda about how she looks or what she wears. She mentions that this guy asked her what she wanted to do on their dates instead of planning everything and expecting her to go along with it. I text back that I'm happy for her and mean it. We've developed this strange friendship built on shared trauma, and hearing that she's moving forward makes me feel hopeful about my own healing. I'm at the grocery store on a Wednesday evening picking up basics when I turn the corner into the produce section and see Arlo examining apples near the organic display. My chest tightens immediately and I freeze in place with my hand still on the cart handle. He hasn't seen me yet. I should just continue shopping like a normal person, but my brain screams at me to leave right now. I abandon my cart in the middle of the aisle and walk quickly toward the exit, my heart pounding so hard I can feel it in my throat. I make it to my car and sit there shaking for 10 minutes before I can even put the key in the ignition. I call River from the parking lot and she talks me through breathing exercises until I calm down enough to drive home. At our next session, River helps me understand that panic responses are normal after what I experienced. We work on strategies for handling unexpected encounters, including planning what I might say if I have to interact with Arlo and practicing staying in public spaces instead of fleeing. She reminds me that my anxiety doesn't mean I'm not healing. It just means my nervous system is still processing the betrayal. I'm folding laundry in my apartment one evening when I realize I haven't looked at Arlo's social media in over a week. I used to check it multiple times a day, searching for clues about what he's doing or whether he's seeing someone new. I would read through old posts trying to find hidden meanings or signs I should have noticed. But lately I've been too busy with work and therapy and reconnecting with friends to obsess over his life. The need to understand exactly why he did what he did is fading. I'm starting to accept that I might never have a satisfying explanation for his choices. And that's okay because his behavior was about his own issues, not about anything lacking in me. I focus on my own growth instead of trying to decode his psychology. It feels like progress. My supervisor calls me into her office on a Friday afternoon, and I spend the walk down the hallway worried that I did something wrong. Instead, she offers me a promotion to senior account manager. The position requires occasional evening networking events and client dinners. A year ago, I would have turned it down immediately, because Arlo always made me feel guilty about evening commitments. I would have convinced myself I didn't deserve the promotion, or that the extra responsibility would be too stressful. But I accept the offer without hesitation, and thank her for the opportunity. She smiles and mentions that I seem more confident and engaged at work lately. She says I've been contributing more in meetings and taking initiative on projects. I realize she's right. I'm not second-guessing every decision, or waiting for someone else to validate my ideas anymore. Jasmine and I meet for lunch at a cafe downtown to catch up on our healing progress. We sit outside in the spring sunshine and compare notes on therapy and dating and learning to trust ourselves again. She admits she still has hard days where she questions her judgment about everything. I tell her I do too, especially when I'm tired or stressed. We talk about red flags we're learning to recognize in potential relationships. Things like people who push boundaries after we say no, or who have explanations that don't quite add up, or who seem too interested in changing how we look or act. Jasmine says she's getting better at walking away from situations that feel off instead of talking herself into giving people more chances. I agree that's something I'm working on too. We finish lunch and hug goodbye, both of us acknowledging how strange it is that we've become friends through such awful circumstances, but also how grateful we are to have someone who truly understands what we went through. River and I spend a session talking about how my hair growing out became symbolic of reclaiming my autonomy. She points out that while the physical change was important, the real work is rebuilding my sense of self beyond appearance. I'm learning to trust my preferences and judgment in all areas of my life, not just how I look. We discuss how I'm making decisions about my career, my friendships, my living space, and my daily routines based on what I actually want, instead of what someone else thinks I should want. River asks me to notice moments when I choose something for myself without seeking validation from others. I realize I've been doing that more often lately, like accepting the promotion, or buying the blue dress, or deciding to keep growing my hair without asking anyone's opinion first. I go on a few casual dates over the next month and use them as practice for setting boundaries and being honest about what I want. The first date I'm so nervous I barely speak, but I manage to say no when he suggests going to a second location after dinner. The second date I'm more comfortable and I tell him directly that I'm not interested in a relationship right now, just casual company. He respects that, and we have a nice evening. The third date I realize halfway through that I'm not attracted to this person, and I end the date early instead of forcing myself to sit through dessert out of politeness. Each time I advocate for myself, it gets a little easier. I'm learning that being direct about my needs doesn't make me difficult or demanding. It makes me honest. Gabriella comes over for dinner at my apartment and watches me cook while we talk about work and family and my dating experiments. She says I seem lighter and more present than I have in years. I ask what she means, and she explains that during my relationship with Arlo, I was always second-guessing myself about everything. She says I would ask everyone's opinion before making even small decisions, like what to order at restaurants or whether to cut my hair or what color to paint my bedroom. She mentions that I constantly sought validation and seemed anxious about making the wrong choice. But now I make decisions with confidence and don't need everyone to agree with me before I move forward. I didn't realize how much I had changed until she pointed it out. We eat dinner and laugh about old memories, and I feel grateful to have a sister who stuck by me through all of this and who sees my growth even when I don't notice it myself. I'm at a coffee shop near my apartment ordering an iced latte when Julian walks in and spots me at the counter. He approaches me carefully and says he's been hoping to run into me because he wants to apologize for his role in Arlo's deception. He explains that he knew about both relationships and helped cover for Arlo at work events by running interference and making excuses. He says he feels terrible about it and has been dealing with the social consequences at their company. I listen to his whole apology and then tell him I appreciate him saying that, but I'm not interested in maintaining any connection to that situation. I explain that I'm focused on moving forward, and that includes not having relationships with people who were part of the deception, even if they regret it now. Julian looks disappointed but nods and says he understands. I take my coffee and walk out of the shop feeling strong and clear about my boundaries. I don't owe him forgiveness or friendship just because he apologized. I get to decide who stays in my life. A few weeks pass and I notice my hair brushing against my shoulders when I turn my head. I stand in front of my bathroom mirror one morning and pull the strands forward to check the length. It reaches past my shoulders for the first time since before I met Arlo. I run my fingers through it and smile at my reflection. The hair itself looks good, but that's not what makes me feel proud. I chose this length myself without asking anyone's opinion or seeking validation. I didn't cut it to please someone else or let it grow because someone told me to. This decision came from me alone, and that feels more important than any hairstyle ever could. I take a photo and text it to Rosemary with a simple caption about reaching my goal length. She responds immediately with celebration emojis and says, "I look beautiful." I believe her, but more than that, I believe myself when I look in the mirror now. My phone buzzes with a text from Jasmine a few days later. She sends a photo of herself at what looks like a company event based on the background decorations and professional attire. Her hair has grown out past her shoulders too, and she's smiling next to a man with his arm around her waist. The caption says she wanted to share some good news about her new relationship. I zoom in on her face and notice the genuine happiness in her expression. She looks relaxed and comfortable in a way I never saw in any of the photos from her time with Arlo. I text back congratulations and mean it. The fact that I feel happy for her surprises me given how we met and the strange circumstances that brought us together. But we both survived the same manipulation, and seeing her move forward with someone who treats her well makes me hopeful for my own future. We're not close friends and probably never will be, but there's a connection between us that feels important, even if we only check in occasionally. I'm organizing my closet the following weekend when I realize something has shifted in how I think about what happened with Arlo. I pull out a dress I bought during our relationship because he said the color looked sophisticated on me. I remember second-guessing my own taste and deferring to his opinion about almost everything. But now when I look at the dress, I just see a piece of clothing that doesn't fit my style anymore. The betrayal and manipulation are part of my history, and taught me to recognize red flags and trust my own judgment. Those lessons matter and shaped who I am now. But the actual events don't dominate my thoughts the way they did in those first awful months. I don't replay conversations in my head or wonder what I could have done differently. The whole experience exists as something that happened to me rather than something that defines me. I donate the dress along with several other items that don't feel like me anymore. The closet looks sparse when I finish, but everything left represents choices I made for myself. My next therapy session with River feels different from the beginning. We sit in her office and she asks about my progress over the past few months. I tell her about the coffee shop encounter with Julian and how I set clear boundaries without feeling guilty. I mention the casual dates where I practiced being direct about my needs and preferences. I describe the growing confidence I feel when making decisions without seeking validation from others. River listens carefully and then suggests we might be ready to transition from weekly sessions to monthly check-ins. She explains that I've made remarkable progress in rebuilding my sense of self and learning to recognize manipulation tactics before they take hold. The goal of therapy was never to erase what happened, but to help me process it and develop tools for healthier relationships moving forward. She believes I have those tools now and can continue growing without needing weekly support. The idea of ending regular sessions makes me nervous for about 10 seconds before I realize the nervousness comes from habit rather than actual need. I agree to the new schedule and we plan our next monthly appointment. Walking out of her office that day feels like graduating from something difficult but necessary. 6 months have passed since the holiday party revelation when I decide to host a dinner party at my apartment. I invite Rosemary, Gabriella, and a few other close friends I've reconnected with over the past half year. I spend the afternoon cooking and setting up my small dining area. The apartment still feels new to me in some ways, but it's completely mine, and that matters. My guests arrive with wine and desserts, and we crowd around my table talking and laughing. Rosemary tells embarrassing stories from our college days. Gabriella shares updates about her kids and her new job promotion. Another friend talks about her dating disasters, and we all offer advice and support. The conversation flows easily without any awkward silences or forced topics. We stay at the table long after we finish eating, refilling wine glasses and picking at leftover appetizers. Someone suggests we play a card game and we clear the dishes to make room. The evening stretches late into the night, and I look around at these people who stuck by me through everything. I feel genuinely content in a way I couldn't have imagined during those first awful weeks after the truth came out. This apartment, these friendships, this version of myself all feel solid and real. Nobody mentions Arlo once during the entire evening, and I don't think about him either until later when everyone has left and I'm cleaning up. Even then, the thought passes quickly without leaving any weight behind it. I'm getting ready for a work event the next week when I catch my reflection in my bedroom mirror. I've been styling my long hair with a curling iron and it falls past my shoulders in loose waves. I pause with the iron still in my hand and really look at the woman staring back at me. She looks confident with her shoulders back and her head held high. She looks authentic in clothes she chose because she likes them, not because someone told her they were sophisticated. She looks free from the constant need to adjust herself to fit someone else's preferences. For the first time in years, I recognize her as completely myself, without any layers of performance or people-pleasing. The recognition makes me smile, and I finish styling my hair with steady hands. I grab my bag and head out to the event feeling ready for whatever comes next. The future feels open and full of possibilities I get to choose for myself.